Today is the opening day of the 20th Annual Conference of Parties of the United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change, or COP20. Dr. Agathe Maupin, SAIIA's researcher on climate change, has attended the last number of COP meetings. So, Dr. Maupin, why is this COP20 so important?
COP20 is very important because it constitutes a key milestone toward the next agreement that the parties are going to produce during COP21 next year in 2015. So to speak, COP20 is kind of COP21's beacon. To achieve a worldwide legally binding agreement is a very difficult task. That's why each COP is very important. It's a process which should be made step by step. So during the COP17 in 2011 in South Africa, for example, in Durban, the parties have created ad hoc platforms and work stream groups to work on the new agreement. During the COP18 in Qatar, in Doha, they have decided that the Kyoto Protocol second agreement should be extended until 2020. Which actually bought them some time to work on this new agreement. And during the COP19 last year in Warsaw in Poland, the parties have agreed to produce the elements of the new agreement and to work on what they called the intended nationally determined contributions for this COP, for the COP20, which started today in Lima in Peru.
So what are some of the challenges that are going to be facing negotiators at this COP?
So far, around this intended nationally determined contribution, there is absolutely no agreement. There is no agreement on the indices process, assessment, differentiation. There is also no agreement on how these indices will be embedded in the new agreement. And there is no agreement either on the indices purpose, scope, and time periods. Why? Because the indices are literally the content and the expectations at the same time that the countries, the parties, would like to see addressed in the new agreement. With regard to the future agreement, there are still some itch points, like the legal form of the agreement, the effective balance between the elements that the parties would like to see addressed in this agreement, so to speak, adaptation, mitigation, capacity building, technology transfer, and of course financial means. There is also the question of the inclusion of differentiation and equity, the common but differentiated responsibilities, and the respective capabilities of the parties. And last but not least, there is a level of multilateral oversight and compliance of this agreement.
That is a broader context. What is specifically happening in South Africa and Africa around this COP?
So 2 weeks ago, South Africa held a national dialogue to discuss the country's response to climate change challenges. And Colison Guadla from the CSIR made a very interesting point. He highlighted the fact that the call from Africa and South Africa for the prioritization of adaptation cannot be ignored. So it makes actually Africa's focus and expectation very clear. It's on adaptation. In South Africa, they actually pushed for the global goal for adaptation. And what adaptation means exactly is something rather difficult to understand because it's something very broad. So for example, in South Africa, you have water constraints. So an adaptation could mean that in the agricultural sector, instead of choosing very water demanding crops, they go for the less demanding kind of crops. Of course, for Africa and South Africa, capacity building, technology transfer, and financial means are also very important. They are key pillars to define their ENDCs, and they would like to see them, of course, included in the future agreement. A very important aspect of the negotiation now is the importance of creating synergies. and there is not enough synergies, and platforms for exchange, for increasing the exchange between policymakers, scientists, and the civil societies are really needed. And that's why SAIIA organized a Climate Change in Africa conference earlier this month to increase the interactions, the knowledge, and the initiatives sharing aspects around climate change between stakeholders.
So 2 weeks from now, how would you describe success from this COP?
What would be very important would be a draft of a future agreement and some kind of consensus around the content of the NDCs.
Dr. Maupin, thank you very much for your time today.